Rita was just like any other 12-year-old girl. Bright, cheerful, and full of dreams. She lived in a busy neighborhood with her hardworking parents. They trusted their neighbors implicitly, including Jude's mother, an elderly woman who often offered to keep an eye on the children when the parents were at work. What Rita's parent did not know was that Jude, her 20-year-old son, would take advantage of this trust. It started innocently. Jude's mother would invite Rita over to help with small errands or chores around the house. Jude, who had recently returned home from school, began to take notice of Rita. At first, he offered her candies and small gifts, compliments on her hair or school uniform. Then, his attention turned into something darker. Rita didn't know how to process what was happening. Jude's behavior became inappropriate, but he would always assure her that it was their little secret. Confused and scared, she did not tell anyone, not her parents, not her friends. The once cheerful girl started withdrawing from her usual playmates. Her schoolwork began to suffer, but her parents chalked it up to her growing up. By the time Rita entered high school, the damage had already been done. The trauma she carried manifested in a desperate search for validation. She became addicted to the fleeting attention she received from boys. Her grades slipped further, and whispers about her behavior began circulating in the school. At 16, Rita discovered she was pregnant. The shock of the situation left her reeling. When her father, Samuel, found out, he was furious. He felt betrayed, ashamed, and overwhelmed. Unable to understand the root of Rita's struggles, he made a decision he thought would restore order. He sent her to live with her grandmother in the village. Rita arrived in the village, heartbroken and feeling like an outcast. But her grandmother was different. She did not meet Rita's situation with anger or judgment. Instead, she welcomed her granddaughter with open arms. Over time, Rita began to feel safe enough to share her story. For the first time, she spoke about Jude and the pain she had carried in silence for so long. Her grandmother was heartbroken but determined to help Rita heal. "My child," she said one evening as they cooked together, "you have been through so much, but this does not define you. We will rebuild." With her grandmother's encouragement, Rita began to take steps toward a new future. She enrolled in a local school, balancing her studies with raising her child. It wasn't easy, but she worked tirelessly, fueled by the hope of a better life for herself and her baby. Months turned into years, and Rita's determination bore fruit. She passed her senior certification exams with flying colors. The next chapter of her life began when she applied to a school of nursing. Standing at the gates of the institution, Rita felt a mix of nervousness and pride. She had come a long way from the scared 12-year-old girl who had been silenced by fear. Now, she was ready to rewrite her story. Her grandmother's unwavering support had been the key to her transformation. She watched proudly as Rita thrived, knowing that the love and guidance she had provided had made all the difference. At nursing school, Rita found herself flourishing in ways she never imagined. Every morning, she stood in front of the mirror in her small dorm room, a space she had personalized with photos of her grandmother and child. Looking at her reflection, she would remind herself, "I am more than enough. I am not to be toyed with." These affirmations became her armor, a shield against self-doubt and the shadows of her past. Rita excelled academically, often volunteering for group projects and assisting her peers. Her professors began to notice her dedication and natural leadership qualities. But one day, an incident tested her newfound confidence. Dr. Matthew, one of her senior lecturers, called her into his office under the pretense of discussing her coursework. At first, the conversation was professional, but then it took an inappropriate turn. "Rita," he said, leaning back in his chair with a smirk, "you are a very bright student. You could go far in this profession with the right support." Then moving forward to touch her lap. Rita froze for a moment, recognizing the undertone in his words and his action. But this time, she was not the scared girl she used to be. Taking a deep breath, she met his gaze with unwavering determination. "Dr. Matthew," she said firmly, "I have worked hard to get here, and I will continue to succeed based on my merit. If this conversation continues inappropriately, I will have no choice but to report it." The lecturer's expression shifted, his confidence shaken. He mumbled an excuse about being misunderstood and dismissed her. Rita walked out of the office, her heart racing but her head held high. That evening, she shared the incident with a trusted friend, who encouraged her to join the school's advocacy group against harassment. Rita found purpose in this new role, speaking out for students who felt voiceless and working to create a safer environment on campus. Through her advocacy work, she connected with other survivors and allies, organizing workshops and awareness campaigns. Rita's voice became a source of inspiration, and her strength resonated with those around her. After graduating from nursing school, Rita secured a job in a bustling town far from her grandmother and the village where she had rebuilt her life. The move was bittersweet. She had made peace with her parents, and they finally understood that her past struggles were not her fault. But in the new town, Rita faced a different kind of challenge. Rumors began to spread about her past. Whispers echoed in the hospital hallways and the market streets. Some said, "She will never marry, she already has a child." Others speculated that no young man would want a woman with such a history. Rita heard the rumors, but she refused to let them define her. In her moments of solitude, she would stand before the mirror and remind herself of the truth. "I am worthy. I am enough. My past does not define my future." She focused on excelling in her work, where her compassion and skill earned her respect from her colleagues and patients alike. During her second year working in the new town, Rita met David, a young doctor who had recently transferred to her hospital. At first, their interactions were strictly professional. David was friendly, intelligent, and had a subtle charm that caught Rita's attention. Over time, their rapport grew, and soon they found themselves sharing long conversations over coffee in the hospital cafeteria. David seemed genuinely interested in Rita's life and admired her resilience. Rita began to feel something she had not in years: hope. For the first time, she entertained the idea of building a relationship. David made her laugh, challenged her intellectually, and for a while, it felt like the rumors and judgments did not matter. But just as their bond deepened, David's uncertainty began to surface. On one occasion, after a particularly light-hearted evening together, he grew serious and broached the topic of their future. "Rita," he began, hesitantly, "I have been thinking. When we get married, it might be best if your son stays with your grandmother. I mean, just for a while. It will be easier for us to start fresh." The words hit Rita like a punch to the gut. She had fought too hard to protect her child, to ensure he never felt the rejection or pain she had endured. "David," she said, her voice steady but laced with disappointment, "my son is not just part of my life, he's part of me. Asking me to leave him behind is asking me to deny who I am." David looked at her, unsure of what to say. Rita saw the hesitation in his eyes, the wavering commitment. At that moment, she realized that as much as she cared for him, she could not compromise on something so fundamental. "If you cannot accept my son," she continued, "then we have no future together." She walked away from him that evening, her heart heavy but her resolve unshaken. Rita knew her worth, and she knew that true love would not ask her to choose between her child and her happiness. Rita's life took another turn when a close colleague introduced her to Mr. Titus, a well-known businessman who had been widowed a few years earlier. Mr. Titus was a kind-hearted and generous man, admired by many in the community for his philanthropy. He had heard of Rita's dedication to her work and her resilience as a single mother. From their first meeting, Mr. Titus made it clear that he valued Rita for who she was. Over time, he began picking her up from work each evening, offering to help with groceries, and treating her son as though he were his own. It was a sharp contrast to the uncertainty and hesitation she had experienced with David. Rita was drawn to Mr. Titus' calm demeanor and the respect he showed her as a person and a professional. He admired her strength and the way she had built a life for herself despite the odds. For the first time in a long time, Rita felt truly supported. However, there was one point of contention. Mr. Titus believed that Rita would be happier if she became a stay-at-home mom, allowing him to take care of her financially. He argued that she had worked so hard already, and now she deserved a break, to focus on raising her son and perhaps expanding their family. A few weeks later, Rita met Henry, a patient recovering from surgery. Henry was a remote worker who managed a tech startup from his home office. During his stay in the hospital, Rita's professionalism and kindness left a strong impression on him. On one of her routine checks, Henry smiled and said, "You know, Nurse Rita, if falling ill means meeting someone as amazing as you, I will almost consider it a blessing." Rita laughed, a genuine smile spreading across her face. "Well, I would not recommend it as a dating strategy, Mr. Henry. Focus on getting better first." Their conversations continued, and Rita found herself looking forward to her shifts. Henry respected her work and often shared stories of his own career, marveling at her dedication. Over time, they developed a connection grounded in mutual respect and understanding. Henry admired Rita's strength, and she found comfort in his support. As Henry recovered and was discharged, he asked if he could stay in touch. Rita hesitated, but something in his sincerity reassured her. "Sure, Henry," she said with a smile. "Just do not forget to follow the doctor's orders." As Rita and Henry grew closer, Henry's mother, Madame Nora, became aware of their relationship. Initially cordial, Nora's demeanor shifted when she learned that Rita had a child. She began to subtly express her reservations. "Henry, you know I only want the best for you," Nora said one evening over dinner. "A woman with a child, it's a lot of baggage. I am not sure if this is the right match for you." Henry defended Rita. "Mom, she's an amazing person. She's strong, hardworking, and compassionate. None of that changes because she has a son." But Nora remained unconvinced, making her disapproval known in small, cutting remarks. Rita noticed the change and confided in Henry. "It's not easy," she admitted. "I know she does not approve. I am starting to wonder if she ever will." Henry reached out and held Rita's hands. "I love you, Rita, and I love your son. I will talk to my mom. She just needs to see how wonderful you are." One weekend, Henry's mother unexpectedly fell ill at a family gathering. Everyone panicked as she clutched her chest and struggled to breathe. Without hesitation, Rita stepped forward. She assessed the situation quickly and performed CPR while someone called for an ambulance. The atmosphere was tense as family members hovered around, watching helplessly. Moments later, Madame Nora began to breathe more steadily. The ambulance arrived, and the paramedics praised Rita's swift actions. In the days following, Madame Nora began to see Rita in a different light. Gratitude softened her stance, and she acknowledged the selflessness and strength that had driven Rita to save her life. "Rita," she said, "I was wrong to judge you. I see now that Henry has chosen well. Thank you for everything." With her blessing, Henry and Rita's relationship flourished. They married in a small, joyous ceremony surrounded by family and friends. At their wedding reception, Rita stood up to give a short speech. With Henry at her side and her son beaming with pride, she addressed the crowd. "My journey has taught me many lessons, but the most important one is this: never settle for less than you deserve. No matter your past, no matter what others say, remember that you are worthy. You have the strength to create a brighter future. Do not let anyone tell you otherwise." The audience erupted into applause. Rita's words, born from experience and resilience, inspired everyone in the room. She had transformed her life, and now, she was determined to help others do the same.